you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End of discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
My message to any dad, man, first off, know that, yeah, it is a hard job, but it's the greatest job in the world. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't change anything about it. Everything you're doing from here on out, if it didn't have purpose before, now it has purpose. It's the most important thing you'll ever do. Just be a dad.
Welcome to another episode of Dad is Not a Noun. My name is Ishmael, changing the narrative for men of color fatherhood, as well as changing the narrative on the things I care about. And today, with Trump, this dude, I can say many words, but I'm just gonna keep it cordial. With him basically using kids in the background, signing an executive order to basically tell Congress you need to dismantle the Department of Education. But with the executive order, what he can do is just gut it. He's already done that. Massive layoffs in the department. I have my good brother with me. Brother Lake is with me again. Before we get into it, just tell people your credentials, and then I'm going to ask you the next question. You already know I'm going to ask you the next question.
So my name is Chris Lake. You can find me at the Behavior Booster on TikTok or Instagram. I've worked with kids with special needs in the early intervention field since 2006. So for the last 19 years, I've developed behavior analytic therapy as well as special education therapy to kids who have autism, developmental delays, special needs of any sort, anywhere from 18 months up to house. But I have worked with kids up to years old and some a little older as well. You generally cross the spectrum and developmental delays, but not just that. I'm a special educator, behavior therapist, been doing so almost 20 years. I have just stepped out of the industry because of the current recognize that unfortunately my specific career path is coming to a close. Pivot because I have a daughter to feed. And that's all I got to say about that.
Absolutely. And the next question I'm going to ask you, how's your heart?
Heart's good, bro. My heart's good. My bishop had a birthday celebration at church today, and it was lovely. And it was good to see people in faith and feeling good and celebrating. And I saw some activists who I hadn't seen in a bit who were also in church, and we talked about some plans that you and I have also talked about regarding what we can.
And I think that's important, going behind the scenes of what can we do without promoting it on social media, of how can we, in case this does happen and the Department of Education is no longer exists, what can we do as a community to galvanize and make sure, again, I know it's no child left behind. I'm gonna leave it like that. Let's get into it. He signed the executive order to basically tell Congress to dismantle the Board of Education. I'm gonna pull something up because his boy Eli posted something on social media yesterday, and again, it goes back to the lack of empathy when it comes to doing stuff like that. All right, so I'm gonna bring it up right now. See if I can bring it up. All right, hold on. Let's see. All right. Give me a moment. I'm a little slow, but there we go. But yeah, that's the post that Elon, his boy, posted. And if you look really close, he does not know how to spell department.
Yeah, I mean he's sharing a meme that he found, right? So that's kind of what he does. You know, it's obviously to the benefit in this nation for there to be less educated individuals. Obviously, it's the benefit of those who are power hungry and see people as NPCs, um, to dismantle or corrupt or abolish the Department of Education. When people are cheering for, I just hope they take a moment, think to stop and think and ask themselves, who does, and they can say, oh, it benefits the kids because school, grades have been dropping for da 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 da. And, I always tell people, like, do you have any, if you don't have any receipts, people are going to look at you kind of funny when you make some claims. Like, because you could just be talking out your butt. Anyone can. But if you have receipts, then at least we can respect you. When people say, oh, rates have been dropping, listen, the real truth of that is, globally, grades have been dropping. Since 2010, 2011, globally, with about two or three countries as exceptions, grades have been dropping. It's not an American issue. That's not because of the Department of Education. Because what's happening in Japan has nothing to do with the Department of Education. What's happening in Germany and Italy and UK and Scotland and anywhere else has nothing to do with us. So they're using a data set and creating a narrative around that. The grades dropping has nothing to do with the Department of Education, how we educate our kids. If you're seeing the same exact trend globally, and we are, and if you're curious as to, well, what caused that trend, I would posit honestly it's screen time. Because 2010 was the birth of Instagram, 2011 was the birth of Snapchat. You had Roblox rolled out in 2011. You had YouTube Kids rolled out in 2012. You have all these. There's again receipts. You don't have to believe me. You can look this up. It's available, and you'll see the thing is true. When you look at OPEC countries and their performance, you'll see a steep decline from 2010 to today across the world in math, science, and reading. And it correlates exactly with when widespread screens were used, when the amount of screen time kids were using per day expanded, when the types of social media that were available expanded, and the amount of ownership of screens expanded. So it's not schools, it's the fact that we as parents and we as a culture just kind of became obsessed and unchecked with screen, and that had an obvious effect on how our students were performing in schools, which we still have not addressed, mind you. That aside, however you feel about that, again, I don't care if you liked it or not. Receipts. Like, we need to start getting back to immutable truths. What is true? Not what the person I voted for say. Not what does my team. What is true?
Yeah.
Truth. Start looking towards truth because we are losing our fucking minds in this country, off of wars and narratives, off of talking heads, off of very confident people who have like this either cocaine or ketamine confidence talking, but it's not true. Can you prove? Not what you think. What do you know? And don't tell me what you're convicted about is something you know. Can you prove it? Gun to your head or $1 million offer, can you prove it? If not, kindly sit down and shut the fuck up. Because a lot of people are talking way too much about stuff they don't know. And that's why we're here. That's why we're at a point now where the president is signing an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education, which, mind you, is just performative, right?
Yeah.
It's really that doesn't him signing paper is just it's a performance piece. He can now say I've officially created an executive order, and we're gonna go into it. But what it actually does is creates pressure, and Trump is a master of creating pressure. That now creates pressure on Congress to follow suit. Government can't be closed without Congress, and that, mind you, that doesn't require 60 votes. You'll hear a lot of people say that requires 60 votes if someone filibusters it. It only takes one senator to filibuster, and if you don't know, filibusters only happen in the Senate, not in the House. So if one senator says, "I don't think this is a good idea. I'm going to filibuster, and I'm just going to talk and talk and talk and talk," which is an insane rule when it comes to governance. They can literally about a yellow pages and read words from the yellow pages, and that counts so long as they don't stop talking. And someone has done this in the past. Again, everything I'm going to say, you can Google it or you can grok it, chat GPT it, and you can find the truth. Look for truth because I'm so exhausted with devil's advocates and people throwing out narratives that have no basis in reality, guys. We got to get back to logic, reason, and truth.
No, and I think what makes this picture so bad, like I said, again, the misspelling of department, but also the do sign with the head with Trump's head on it, and then also like mourning the death. Like,
Yeah.
how has mourning the death become this meme. Like this is should be like a private moment where you mourn someone that's no longer with you, and now it's become like this laugh
I mean,
factory. Like,
they're all about dancing on the grave, man. That's the narrative. That's the vibe. You know, if you really think about it too, uh, from what I'm seeing, everything this administration. I don't want to say MAGA because that's a people know them. You know what I mean? And I
mhm,
think a lot of times people on the left demonize MAGA, and I don't think um, that's not to say that they're not complicit in him obviously being in power, but
right.
I sense breaks we should probably have so that we can at some point. Um, but that being said, they're not building anything, right? If you look at all of their policy that you've seen so far, whether it's immigration, whether it's Department of Education, whether it's I don't see them actually building anything. I see them looking to tear things down. DEI, CRT, women's rights, they're just removing things. And I'm not sure what plan they have when they're done. When they're done, have they torn down all these supports? They're tearing down supports for veterans. Of course, SBA, we'll talk about that in a second. They gutted the SBA. They've gutted the Departments of Human Health Services. They're gutting as much as they can, for abuse, waste, and fraud. Mind you, oddly enough, despite them looking at fraud and finding fraud, no one's getting arrested, right? Right?
Hmm.
Conversation's not being had. Like Elon saying, "Oh, look at all this fraud from USAID." Okay, then arrest someone. Why have
Yeah.
you arrested? You seem pretty mad about it, and you're saying straight up it's fraud, but you're not arresting anyone. Isn't that weird? You guys hold all the cards. You guys hold all the cards. You got Pam Bondi, you got Kash Patel. If you want to arrest someone or have them investigated, they'll do it. Why aren't you arresting anyone? If a crime was done and you guys are in charge and you guys want to go gangbusters, why aren't you arresting? Said you paying them off from payouts? Okay, okay, sure, but they don't have a plan to build anything. They're not building anything for MAGA. MAGA right now, they're busy dancing on the tears of they're busy drinking liberal tears and dancing on the graves of things that liberals or progressive hold sacred, the supports and the things that help the vulnerable people. And they're not realizing that this is going to affect them. So cutting Social Security is going to affect you, guy. Current
Hmm.
department more property taxes minimum. If you don't own, you rent. Your rent's going to go up too. Check it out. Everyone's paying more. Um, They're not building anything. They're not promising to build hospitals. They're not promising to build roads. They're not promising to make sure the water's clean. They're not promising to make sure the air is clean. They're not promising anything to make our lives actually better. They've convinced that entire population that if we destroy everything woke, then somehow this country will be better. And everyone's eating these magic beans like it's gonna cure them. And I'm curious, like the spell will break eventually because either we're going to have a recession, or people are going to feel the pain from school closings, or people are going to feel the pain from just not making enough money and not being able to pay their bills. There's a certain inevitability to your leaders being too greedy. There's a certain inevitability to how it's going to affect us. And while they're laughing right now, my heart breaks for them because like you guys are going to wake up and you're going to realize like I was part of the problem. I was part of the problem.
Yep. And I have the government website.
Yep.
Improving education outcomes by empowering parents in states and communities. Um, I'll have the link in the description below. But the one thing that kind of hit, like, made me laugh when I was reading it was this key part of it when it says, you see it right now, right? When it says while the Department of Education does not educate anyone, it maintains a public relation office that includes over 80 staffers that costs more than 10 million per year. But again, words matter. At the part while the Department of Education does not educate anyone, and again, when you go back to the campaign, they were pushing that, oh yeah, the Department of Education is doing this to your kids. But if you go onto their website, again, they're trying to balance legality, and they put in there that while the Department of Education does not educate someone, that right there, that says a lot. Um, Brother Lake, you wanna add something to it?
I mean, this we've talked about this before, and this just shows you the lie, right? I mean, he's providing his own right there. One of the biggest talking points towards why we needed to close the Department of Education was because we needed to take it back to the states, bring it back to the states. We need the states to education and not have some federal bureaucracy in Washington determine what my kid's going to learn. We need to be able to have the states choose curriculums that are based on the culture that is local to them, is what they've said. People saying this, they have been lying to, they played us, and I don't know what point this country, it seems like half the country um, believes that politicians don't lie. It used to be common knowledge for all of us that politicians lie all the time. If their lips are moving, they're lying, and it seems like that half now, like that Republican conservative half, just assumes if a politician is talking and they have the same favorite color as me, then they're telling God's truth. And I got bad news for you. Just because you have the same favorite color, they both like red, that doesn't mean that they're telling you the truth. Every state chooses their own curriculum, and not just state, local school boards decide what the curriculum is. And I use the example of New York City versus New York State. In New York City, they voted back in December on a Black History's curriculum. That's the New York City state. Kids in Long Island don't have that. Kids in New York City, the five boroughs do. Jersey has a climate change curriculum they've had for the last 4 years. California has ethnic studies they've had. Washington State has LGBT required curriculum from 12, and they're one of 7 states that has that. Wisconsin, which is a rural area, has dairy classes. Texas has agricultural classes, so does Montana. Texas also has Bible infused study. That was a controversial win for them back in November, where they decided they're going to have Bible infused curriculum for elementary school. This is impossible if the Department of Education is educating us or if they are determining our curriculum. They obviously don't. Narrative, and people were sold our education is forcing CRT on us. It's for woke agendas. It's forcing an LGBT agenda. It's not. It's really not. It never was. That's against the law policy. They don't have educators. What they did do was say, "Hey, listen, we have this money for you, and in money, you have to be following certain federal laws of respecting that's it. So make sure you're not discriminating against LGBT. Make sure you're not discriminating against children of colors, of people based on their nationality, sex, gender expression, religion, required by federal law. Oh, you're adhering to these laws. Here's your money." It wasn't nefarious, but people got sold a boogeyman. We control our education in each.
No, and I think it's
Go ahead.
no, and no, I definitely agree with you, bro. I have an article from, I don't know if you can see it. You can see it. It's from Newsweek, and they break down via education data org, educationdata.org. Alaska receives most federal funding at 4,369 per K student. All right. Let me see. Let me a little trouble here, but I'll make it work. Let me see. All right, there we go. But yeah, uh, when it comes to Department of Education funding, all right, Alaska receives $4,369 per K-12 student. Next is North Dakota. They receive 3,393. Montana received $3,260. Kentucky, 3,195. South Dakota received $3,053. And then you have Hawaii, Mississippi, West Virginia, Wyoming, and Vermont round out of the top 10 when it comes to receiving funding when it comes to Department of Education. So I want to add that to the context because I think that's important when you talk about having receipts.
Yeah.
Receipts matter.
Right. And these states happen to them. Their algorithm, like we're not in their algorithm. You know what I mean? Maybe Hawaii, but most of the states you mentioned are red, and they're anything that we have to say about education. And once they see our face, they're probably not gonna want to hear it anyway. Let's be honest. Uh, they're gonna be. That's why I say like it's a matter of time, and we need an off ramp for our fellow citizens who vote differently and have a different favorite color because the spell is gonna break eventually. Um, my when I do the math, happens is domino effect, right? When if Congress does close the Department of Education, because as we saw, Democrats are willing to go on that PR to prevent the government shutdowns. So there's a chance that there's some senators who vote to close the Department of Education. God only knows for the reason. If it does, which I'm not putting past where we are, even if it doesn't, we're still in trouble. Schools will close. Not all at first, but the schools that will close first are the ones that have been underperforming um, and have been underfunded and have been in trouble. They'll close, and the kids from those schools, some parents, some, not all, some parents will say, let me put my kid in a school nearby. And they will. And that school's going to have a bigger class size. And some teachers will quit. Some teachers won't because it's a lot to watch after a classroom of 35, 40 kids all at once, especially if you got new kids and there's dynamics between the new kids and the old kids. And, you can really play it out in your head. So you lose some teachers, which means class size get even bigger, and you're gonna have some more schools closed. Mind you, in the rural areas, this process won't even happen, right? In the rural areas, if a school closes, there's just no school around. Now, I want people to think what happens when schools close, even if it's not all schools. What happens when some schools close and some of those kids in those schools, some schools have dozens of kids if you're in a rural area, schools have hundreds of kids, some schools have well over 1,000 kids, right? What happens to all those people, those kids, who are now to be watched? Three. Not every parent can work from home. Some parents have jobs that require them to be in person. So either they're going to quit their jobs or they're going to go to their job and pray their kids won't get in trouble. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. What would you do if you had to go to work? Hopefully your 9-year-old's not going to get in trouble. Bro, you might not be able to find a sitter, right? That's the thing. People are playing like the people keep doing this game where the best case scenario is going to work out for everyone in America, and it won't. I was having a conversation with someone on a train I hadn't seen a while ago. The biggest concern for me is 13 to 18-year-old boys. You do not want unwatched, unsupervised 13 to 8-year-old boys en masse in any major city in this country, period. You just don't, right?
No, 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 no. And that's facts too. And um, the great thing about that too is that this lack of again empathy and understanding that you know it's going to impact a lot of the marginalized groups. And we talk about the young black kids in the urban area, but also the rural white kids, rural black kids. Like you said, it's like if you close that school down, where they're going to go to school?
Whether
You know, where parents working 2, 3 jobs, so now they're going to have to like, what are the options? There's no options, and again, like you were saying, is like they have no plan.
we have no plan. That's
They have no play. I'm trying to find what is their substitute of now dismantling the board of education. Their thing is like just give it to the states.
well,
And again, you give it again. The states are the one that state the curriculum.
right.
So it's the oxymoron thought process to say give it to the states because the states has it already. The only reason why the Department of Education is important is just to make sure poor kids can go to school.
Yeah, and kids with special needs are taken care of.
Right. And that goes back to my next thing is that, I know we talked about it earlier that you have, I don't know what's going on right now, but you have 17 states suing to overturn 504.
Oh God.
And 504 is basically to not discriminate children with disability.
Yeah.
So basically, so disability kids can go to school. And this is what 70 states are suing to say this is unconstitutional. And again, that's go by again states' rights. You know, if you're talking about state rights, then you had states back in the days that said Jim Crow was cool.
Right. 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 Yeah. And then you also have. I'm not sure you heard about their
And let me add something to it.
nation now.
That 504 was implemented by Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon is one of the most racist presidents, one of the racist presidents. And he's like, yeah, you can't discriminate over disability people. You can't do that. That's not cool. That's saying a lot from a dude who was on a phone with conversation with Ronald Reagan that said, you know, these Africans, don't wear no shoes. And they start laughing with each other.
Wow.
And I'm not laughing, but it's just frustrating that you had Richard Nixon say you can't discriminate over children with disability.
We're in new territory, man. Which is why we got to find systems to take care of ourselves. I mean, I thought about writing a book years ago, and I think I might go back to it called "How to Survive Our Government" because, you know, we need to have strategies to how to survive our government. Now it's even more pressing. You know, how do we make sure that if we have kids who are disabled, they can get around? Because it's not just schools. 504 plans, yes, it's schools, but it's also work.
Yeah.
It's and it's wild that well the reason is because of the trans issue, which became a boogeyman for people. Mind you, the trans population is less than 1% of the nation. I don't understand why people got so about a population that most people who are upset don't even, right?
Yeah.
They don't even know. They don't have any friends or family or any interactions with them at work or what have you, but they're just so up in arms. And
Yeah.
it's like, just take care of yourself, man. If you don't get it, just don't get it. Don't be so staunchly against it and have this vitriol because again, some talking head has convinced you that they're gonna, I don't know, steal your kids or something. Some jazz, man. It's crazy. But essentially, 504 plans were in some sort of way trans. I think it's called. I forget the name of it, but there was a trans people were able to use 504 plans by claiming they had disorder. I forget the name of the disorder, so I don't want to misspeak. And that's why at first they attacked the 504 plans because they were first going after the trans population. That's why they wanted. They opposed to disabled people. But the problem is 504 plans. Once they did that, they decided, you know what, F it. Like let's just get rid of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And a huge jump as opposed to just like surgically taking out the one issue. And we're seeing this again and again, right? We got to think about this for the future. If you want progress, um, if you want transformation, there's a number of ways you can go about transformation. And if it comes down to, you have to do demo, you have to destroy a certain area of your house. Um, these people they're just taking the biggest tools to knock things out as opposed to starting small. Some things require a scalpel. Not everything requires a machete or a chainsaw. And it feels like the administration just wants to chainsaw it all and then say, well, we'll figure out after it's all knocked down what we can build up. But this isn't a movie. This is human lives, and the collateral can be permanent. The collateral can mean suffering for decades for millions of people. And even if they do fix systems, there still can be suffering for millions of people. And we, as empathetic human beings, should be opposed to that. We shouldn't say, "Well, it's funny because the person who has my favorite color thinks it's funny." And I think we all need to adjust our lens a little bit to see is there a nuanced middle ground? Like maybe I don't like Department of Education, and maybe you're not wrong to not like Department of Education. Maybe public schools could be better. They could. Obviously, they could be better. That doesn't mean we need to just get rid of the oversight and the enforcement areas, because that's what happens ultimately, right? You get rid of the Department of Education, they don't educate them. So what do they do? 2/3 of the budget goes towards student loans. And student loans right now have been moved from the Department of Education, or they're in process being moved from the Department of Education to Small Business Association. Okay, this is important for anyone listening to pay attention to. When you move that 1.6 trillion bank account, from the Department of Education to the Small Business Association. Recognized just yesterday, Trump gutted the Small Business Association by 43%. We have understaffed offices that are expected to take on twice the workload. After the fact, they're going to take on more of the workload of the people who were just fired. We're facing certain collapse of systems. That's why it's important for us to consider how do we make support systems outside of government for our communities, because we're going to need to. And this isn't to be alarmist, but I'm tired of being denialist about things too. Everything's going to be fine.
Right.
Almost everything's not really going to close the Department of Education. That's denial. You were wrong.
Yeah.
You were wrong. He just did. It's exactly
Yes.
what he wanted to do. It's exactly what he said he would do. But for
Yep.
some that makes me unreal. Receipts that doesn't like pay
I
attention.
know. I know, man. It's frustrating too because now, like, I posted in your comment of the video you posted on TikTok, and you have these social media people telling false narrative of it's gonna be all right.
Yeah,
And the one video I sent to you was, this woman and guy having a conversation. It's like, oh, it's gonna be all right. You know, if it gets dismantled, it's gonna go here and go here and go here. So that if people are just film mongering, and I put in the comment that, do you know, like, basically 40% of government officials have been fired.
yeah.
So if you pass it on to other departments that's understaffed, how are they going to handle that?
And then mind you, like people again, people are using magical thinking. That's what really drives. Let's ideal world. No, forget an ideal world. Realistically speaking, let's say they were able to, the people who are still there haven't lost morale. Let's pretend the people in the SBA have not lost morale, and let's pretend that they have exceptional focus and work ethic. Okay, now 43% of their colleagues doing the same job as them have been fired, which logically means they have more work to do already. Okay? And now people are saying, oh, but the bank accounts are going to go to them. Okay, even if they can handle the extra workload from their fired colleagues, they still have to learn how to do someone else's job. It's not that easy to take on some other industry's paperwork. There's a learning curve. There's going to be time lost. There's whole different processes between what they're doing and what FAFSA requires. And about communicating with colleges and communicating to people who are calling and answering those questions. They have to learn a new industry while they're already overworked and have, I don't know, morale issues. They might feel a certain way. And we're praying that they don't quit, right? We're assuming that everyone who's still there is not going to give up. We're assuming everyone who's there can handle the workload and will handle essentially like three times the average work that they're doing. That's magical thinking. Could you do that? Do
No,
you want to work jobs tomorrow?
no. I agree with you. To make it simple for people to understand, um, let's say, let's bring up a company, the Dollar Tree, right?
Right.
And they decided to downsize their workers or whatever, right? And so you have a manager, and or let's say like a night supervisor and a cashier. Okay.
Right. Right.
And so you have two people in a store, and you have massive traffic, right?
Right.
And so you two are only responsible for, not responsible, but you're responsible for ringing customers up and then stocking.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen? You won't be able to stock, because again, if you're constantly busy ringing people up, how are you able to stock?
This is a good.
And I'm just going to keep it like that for people who may not, to simplify it for people, because sometimes you have to Sesame Street shit for
Yeah.
people to understand.
Thinking like, oh, it's just getting the job isn't cut, it's getting moved, and that's as much thinking as they do on a topic. Like that, those two sentences. That's as much thinking as like, move to where, move to whom, who is trained. Like right now, the special ed. This is what I. Again, if people don't know, 19 years special educator. I love those kids. My industry's dead. I'm done. because I know what's going to happen. And special ed is dead. I don't care how someone feels about me saying that. It's true. You have no receipts if someone feels a certain way about what I've just said. Special education is about to be dead because right now, the Office of Special Education Programs, which is in charge of IEPs and all things special ed, they fired their director. They have no director. They have a deputy director, sure, but they fired their director. Okay, they cut staff. When you cut half the staff of the Department of Education, and you say, "Oh, the job's special ed, that's just gonna be moved," and that's as much thinking as you want to do about because you have no fucking. You have to recognize where is that gonna be moved to? Health and Human Services? Okay. Do you understand how Health and Human Services works, operates, processes their paperwork, responds to phone calls, what kind of work they have to do? Because Health and Human Services isn't just one building. All right. There's a bunch of different other offices. That's NIH, that's CDC. Okay. That's Administration of Children and Families. And that's where it's going to be moved to. Under Administration of Children and Families, there's other offices too. And do you know which of those offices is most suited to take care of IEP? Because you can't just throw it anywhere. You can't just say, hey, you guys at CDC who take care of diseases. Autism is a disease, right? So you can just handle these IEPs. That doesn't make any sense. It's going to go to the Office of Head Start because Head Start already works in schools, works with young children, and actually does work with IEPs. So they understand the foundational information necessary to actually be helpful. Okay? The problem is they just had their staff cut by 25% by Doge. And just a month before that happened, they were already 20% short. So again, we have offices that have been stretched way too thin that are going to have to do double ready that we're asking to do an additional workload. It doesn't fucking work. And everyone's laughing and smiling and saying, no, we'll be fine. I'm like, you are not doing your homework. And I'm sorry this is riled up. I'm sad on behalf of the 7.8 million kids with special needs who are about to be out of luck. And I feel even worse for their families because they will have to make the hardest decisions that anyone I know can make.
No, and I agree with you. And I know we went over time a little bit because I know you got to go real soon. Um, Talk about because I know there's different states that start doing teacher walkouts. You want to talk about that?
On Monday is going to be teacher walkouts nationwide. I know Colorado already had a couple on Friday. In response to the executive order, it's important for teachers to show this nation that we cannot function without schools. We cannot function without schools. We found that out 5 years ago. I think we've forgotten when the shutdowns happened because of the pandemic. We could not have kids in schools. And as a result, we realized very quickly that people can't work if their kids are at home. So every teacher out there, tell another teacher, other people have been organizing text, WhatsApps, they're talking on social media. Do the same. Try to fly under the radar if you can. If not, whatever. Just make sure you talk to your network to know on Monday there will be a nationwide teacher walkout to help show those in power that we have some power. Republicans are tight-lipped and just they're marching to the beat, and Democrats, unfortunately, they just seem to be all talk or TikTok videos. And
Yeah.
it's on us. It's on us to actually do something that's not performative, right? We're beyond the point of performative. We need to do something that's legal, nonviolence, and effective. And a walkout is effective because it shuts an economy down. And since all the people in power who are billionaires care about is money, I have to hit them where it hurts, honey.
Facts. And we're going to end that with that. Brother Lake, thank you for coming on. Again, how can people find you?
You can find me on TikTok at Behavior Booster. You can find me at Instagram, Behavior Booster as well. Check out my website, behaviorbooster.com, and check my book out if you have a kid with special needs and you're looking to find a way to make parenting a little bit more peaceful. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
No, thank you for coming on, man. The links will be in the description below. And then also, man, you got to start doing these debates on TikTok Live because I know that's big right now. You know, you got like one person debating 20 MAGA. So when it comes to the Department of Education, I think, that's your warehouse. I think, just to get more people to understand like the the importance that you need to know that if the Department of Education is no longer, your child with disability is going to be fucked.
Yeah.
If you're in a rural area or urban area, you're going to be fucked. And I'm sorry, I'm using a lot of curse, but right now it's to a point where sometimes you got to curse to make a point for people to understand that this is the current environment we're in. When you have a dude, I know we talked off online, where live on TV, this dude said he didn't sign the 1798 Enemies Act on live fucking TV. And you go on the website and you read the verbiage, it said he did sign it.
He lies all the time, and no one cares.
And nobody cares.
He's-
Which led to massive deportation of American citizens that was supposedly tied to a gang with a tattoo. And I'm just gonna leave it like that. But again, brother, I'm frustrated like you're frustrated. And I know you gotta go to your baby and you know you need peace of mind. Cause I need peace of mind too, because this you can't make this shit. You can't make this shit up, man. I might get strike on YouTube, but I'm at the point where I don't care because again, it's about informing people what's going on. It's not fear mongering, but it's just letting people know that this is what's going on. You need to know, and how you navigate. That's on you,
Yeah, man. Amen.
brother.
Man.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. You know, we'll connect behind the scenes, but we're out. Peace.